From rote learning to critical thinking, the challenge based learning revolution. Date November 24 2025. Global Education Review. Modernizing STEAM Education and Secondary School. Interviewer. Interviewer Mark Thompson, Senior Education Correspondent. Interviewee Dr. Sofía Álvarez, Lead Curriculum Designer. Specialist in STEAM Pedagogy. Mark Thompson, MIT. Dr. Álvarez, thank you for sitting down with us. Has the education landscape has shifted dramatically in the last five years. We are seeing a global move away from traditional methods. To start school, you define the fundamental problem with the old model. Why are schools rushing to transition away from rote learning? Doctora Sofía Álvarez, thank you. Thank you, Mark. It is a pleasure to be here. The fundamental issue is the purpose of education for the last century or pedagogy was designed for an industrial era. The goal was the efficient transfer of static information. We relied heavily on rote learning, the memorization of facts, dates, formulas, and definition without context. In a rote learning models, success is measured by recall a student memorizing Newton second law F equal ma regularities. It on less it, it on a test and this likely forgets it 2 weeks later. The retention rates for this kind of learning are incredible low because the brain discards information that it deemed irrelevant the survival of daily life. Today, information is ubiquitous. Any student with a smartphone can find the formula for velocity or the atomic weight of gold in seconds. Therefore, the value of memorization has plummeted. We are transiting because we need students who can use knowledge, not use store it. We need to move from what is it answer, what is the answer, to how do how do do- how do we solve this problem. This is where challenge based learning or aprendizaje basado en retos becomes essential. MT. That brings us to the core of our our discussion. How does challenge based learning different from simple giving a student a project at the end of a unit? S is a that is crucial distinction in traditional project based learning. The project often comes at the end. It is the dessert after the meal. In challenge based learning, the challenge is the meal. The challenge drives the curriculum. When we implement a challenge based approach, we start with a big idea, sometimes relevant like clean energy or community health. We then pose an essential question and a specific challenge. For example, instead of teaching a generic unit on electricity, we might say the challenge is to design a lighting system for a rural classroom that function without the main power grid. Suddenly, the physics is not abstract. To solve this, the students needs to learn about voltage, current, resistance, and circuits. They learn the content because they need it to solve the problem. This creates I need to know. When a student learns a concept to appeal it immediately to real world applications cements the knowledge in their long terms memory. This is how we foster deep understanding rather than rather than superficial recall. This sounds excellent in theory, but I imagine it is difficult for teachers who are used to lecturing. One of the learned terms often used in this context is scaffolding. Can you explain what scaffolding means in a CFL environment? Is a absolutely scaffolding is for perhaps the most important skill a modern teacher. When you ask a uh, 5 years old student to solve energy crisis in their village, that is overwhelming task. If you if you just leave them alone, they will fail and become frustrated. Scaffolding refers to the temporary support structures the teacher puts in place to help students reach higher levels of comprehension. It is like construction scaffolding on a building. It supports the structure while it is being built and removed once the building can stand on its own. In the classroom, scaffolding might look like this. Conceptual scaffolding. The teacher provides guide on how research effective resource before the students start searching. Procedural scaffolding. The teacher gives a template or rubric for how to present the final prototype. A strategy scaffolding. The teacher intervenes when a group struck asking welding question like a have you considered how the resistance of this wear affects the battery life rather than giving the answer. The goal is to engage the student in the zone of proximal development. This sweet spot where the ask is difficult not to be challenging, but not so difficult that it is impossible as the students become more competent. The teacher slowly removes the scaffolding, allowing the students more autonomy. Let's talk. Empty, let's talk. Assessment. Let's talk about assessment. In the traditional curriculum. We have mid-term exams and multiple choice tests. How do you how do you evaluate a student in a system that values innovation over memorization? Is I this this is the hardest part of the transition for many institutions for cannot effectively evaluate critical thinking with a multiple choice test. If we want to measure competency or assessment, strategies must change.